Um, to be honest with you, to be really honest with you, we didn't come up with an episode for today. Um, and being 2 days into the week, we thought it'd be about a good time to have a good old moan about everything that's messed up in the marketing industry, and so we thought we'd kick it off with our beautiful backgrounds. As you can tell, that's a must-have for any marketer. You can't not have that private jet money. You can't not have that Lambo in the garage, right? Like otherwise, how do you know your worth? You know what I mean?
If you're not flying everywhere on a private jet, if you don't take your Lambo out of your fleet of cars that you own just to show off, then you're not. You need to double your prices. You need to, once you double your prices, then you need to double them again. You need to outsource everything to India. Work no more than 4 hours a week, regardless of the situation. And yeah, that is how you get success, guys. It's right in front of there. Anyone can do it. If you're not rich, then you're just lazy.
Right? I don't know. I feel like the word hustle and grind and all of those have been abused so much that they've become swear words because people have misunderstood them so much that now we're just kind of like abusing them as almost like, I don't know, it's just like a fetish, isn't it, of like the marketing industry to just like, oh, you have to fucking hustle and you have to grind it out, and uh it's just, I don't know, it's bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, granted, like the same thing is true when it comes to just like people say, oh yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. Everyone goes, follows with an eye roll.
I
Like,
know,
okay,
and that's kind of the funny thing though, isn't it, Jared? Like, I don't know about you, but apart from maybe on our Facebook profiles now, because we mostly surround ourselves with entrepreneurs, but isn't there that phenomenon that people getting like, a $2 pay raise will get 10,000 times more reaction and more backing from their friends and stuff like that than the person that goes, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to build a business now and I'm going to, I'm actually going to do it, because everyone just thinks that they're going to now get sold some multi-level marketing makeup crap or something like that.
yeah,
I
they're
don't
going to
know.
be sold the next essential oil that cures the coronavirus.
Damn straight. I don't know. I just think it's perverse. I think that this industry has really turned perverse, and I think it's like when I look through the Facebook groups, it's kind of, I don't know if this is something that I'm just noticing, but I feel like the Facebook groups go through like phases with everyone that joins. Where when I joined the marketing Facebook groups like 5-6 years ago, a lot of the guys that and girls that I talk to today were also in like their inception stages.
Mm.
Excuse me. So it was a huge community of people just being like all over it, helping each other, really active and all of that. But the communities were much smaller. And now they've really grown. And a lot of the people that are actually making money aren't in the Facebook groups anymore. Like they're in the Facebook groups, but they're not active, right? And so what ends up happening is you just have a lot of newbies, which obviously are important to the community, but a lot of newbies just like rehashing the same shit of like, where do I buy content? Where do I do this? How do I become number one on Google? And it's just over it.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the biggest challenges with the industry is that one of the greatest things, but also one of the most frustrating things at the same time, is that there's no barrier to entry. If you wanted to, you've been a surgeon for the last 20 years and you're like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to call myself a social media expert and start, convincing other people that, they should pay me to do it, then like you can, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. And so because of that, there's a million and one get rich quick schemes. And, every time I'm on Facebook, there's like a dozen new courses and a dozen new gurus that will be retargeted for the next 6 months before they eventually decide to move on and do something else or whatever it may be. So yeah, there's a lot of people coming into the industry for the wrong reason, and it's because, they think they're going to be like us and they're going to have their Lambos and their private jets and
Right.
what.
Facts.
But, yeah.
Facts. I don't know. I think the other thing is like, I remember this from Chiang Mai SEO this last year, right? So what happened? Let me walk you through this, and this will make you laugh. So, every year before the conference, Matt sends out like a survey, asking the ticket buyers what they would like to see at the conference, right? And people can basically like vote on the type of content that they would most like to see. And don't get me wrong, I understand that Chiang Mai SEO is an SEO conference. I get it. But like 80% of people want to get like SEO hacks, right? And I'm just like, I find that so disappointing because all of those SEO hacks that are being talked about at these conferences are things that those same people are already sharing in the groups, right? And so, and that's a much better learning environment because you're actually able to like do it in your own time and like figure shit out and stuff like that. And it's not a bunch of like ego stroking bullshit, right? But then when people are doing those votes, they vote against growing your business, right? Like figuring out tactics to actually sustainably grow your business, how to hire people to grow your SEO business, how to keep clients on board, how to build an actual empire. And sort of like, what, SEO hacks? Like I find it so frustrating because to me personally, and maybe I'm just being a dick here, but to me, SEO, like the technical side of SEO is the easy part of running an SEO business. Like doing the mechanical parts, right? Like it's just like running a business and hiring the right people and not going bankrupt and actually still making money 5 years down the line and still existing 5 years down the line. That's the hard part. Fight.
Yeah. I mean, so one thing that I've been saying for a little bit now is that, I wish there was that, that how to go from 500,000 to $1 million course. But no, there's all the courses are how to go from 0 to 10K or 0 to 20K or whatever it may be, because that's where 80 to 90% of the people are. Because like, I don't want a course that's teaching me how to get clients and how to fulfill on those clients. And to me, that's the easy part. That's where like 90% of it. I want the courses that are like, okay, here are the tax strategies that most agencies don't use. Here's how to talk to your bookkeeper to help them understand what they're doing. Here's how you should create processes and systems by just rehashing exactly what's said in the e-myth, but also like, here are the documents that we actually use internally at our agency that is actually this large, and not just a SOP that's like, oh, sure, that looks good, but in reality it has no actual use. Or also like, okay, here's the structure that you should have to ensure the minimize communication time between your account managers and the people doing work, because you don't want to end up in this situation where it goes, okay, account manager needs something, so they tell the project manager tells the lead SEO goes, okay, right, who's working on this? Okay, Bob's working on this. Let me tell Bob. Bob then tells the lead SEO, who then tells the project manager, then tells the account manager, that tells the client. So how do you avoid these situations while also making sure that everything's like, these are the things that will stop you from getting to like 500,000 to $1 million. And it's just like that just doesn't really, very few people actually really focus on it. And to do a lot of those stuff, it's when you get into like those private masterminds. But the downside of there is that those are mostly like, okay, great, what questions do you have? And sometimes what's preventing you from getting to the next level is that there are things that you don't even realize are important, such as like tech strategies or like more effective communication, or the fuck. And so thing about the conferences, because conferences have to sell to the masses, or at least that's what they want to do. They want to get those. I think Chiang Mai had like 800 people last year at it or something like that. So, and if you consider that like, 80, 90% of people are at that kind of like that lower level, they're like, how to get to 0 to 10, how to get from 0 to 20, like that really kind of excites them. And that's the information that they're always buying, is that they're the ones that are kind of going to the conferences in droves to actually go and learn. Where, I mean, everyone that I talk about that's like above, beyond those levels, nobody goes to the conferences to learn anything. They go because, oh yeah, Bob's going to be there. I haven't talked to Bob in a while. Let's, we'll sit down with like 4 people and we'll actually mastermind during that. Or, maybe we'll meet a good connection or two where it's like, very, very lazy. Like, okay, let me actually listen to a talk and actually write down notes.
Sure. Yeah, I mean it's like a high school reunion, right? Don't get me wrong, I fucking love Chiang Mai SEO. Like I'd give my left nut for it to happen this year, you know what I mean? But at the same time, it's just one of those things where in general, I am on that exact same wavelength as you, where I'm like, man, I just get so infuriated with there being so much focus on the quick wins and so little focus on, excuse me, the longevity. And look, this is something else that kind of makes me laugh is like my brand SEO Butler, if you account for the brand change from PBN Butler to SEO Butler, is only 5.5 years old, right? And in the real world of businesses, that's fucking nothing. Like it's in its inception stage, right? But in our industry, that's like eons, right? Because in that short period of time, the amount of like vendors I've seen come and go where all they did is a cheap bit of arbitrage where they're like, oh, I found this great Fiverr supplier. I can mark his products up 10x and then sell it to some idiots in a Facebook group. Like literally that's the mentality from some of these people, right? And they churn and burn so quickly. And that's kind of the thing, is because everyone's focused on the bottom. Everyone's focused on, okay, how can I arbitrage something, make a quick buck, extort a bunch of fuckers, and then if it doesn't work, you know what? It's just a domain, right? I'll take the domain down, I sell it to someone, whatever. Who cares? It drives me nuts, man.
Or are you saying that my business model isn't a good one? I mean, no, and I think that kind of goes back to the mentality of, get rich quick, and the kind of just how much the industry attracts to that. Because, I mean, so many people. I mean, in a way, it is good business sense if you can find something that's massively underpriced, partner with them at a massive markup, and then make a great profit. The only issue is there's no real long-term strategy often with people that are doing that. Because, like, for example, like what I did for a very short period of time was I realized, probably way too late, I should have realized much sooner, it was very easy to go on Upwork and just put out a question and say, hey, who here's a contributor to like Huffington Post, New York Times, etc. And this is before everyone no-followed their links and all these editorial sites. And you'd find, so I found 3 different Huffington Post writers that would write for $100 an article. I went over to a BHW or a Black Hat World. Most of them were selling for like 1,500 to like 3,000. Some of them at the top end 5,000. So I'm like, cool. So I created a thread and I started selling them for $300, which was a mistake once because I didn't realize is that no matter how low your pricing is compared to everyone else, everyone still asks for a discount. So it's kind of annoying. But I had that live for only a month, and it did about $15,000 in sales. And then the month after that, Huffington Post no-followed other links, and that thread had to go away. But it was like something where it's like, it was so easy to just find something like that, mark it up by 3x, I guess, in that sense, and then just, kind of go from there. But the only issue was, granted, I had other stuff going on. I was working in-house for an agency at the time. But, there are so many people that get into the industry that find that one little thing. And then when it goes away, they're like, okay, well, guess I'm a social media marketing expert tomorrow.
Look, I think that the argument they make is fair, right? Like ultimately, if you can add value to what you're doing, even if it is in a sense arbitrage, then that's fine, right? Like if you, for example, like with those Huffington Post people, if you actually help those people figure out how to what do you say? Like, I don't know, if you figured out how to get the links in there, you figured out how to get the writers to do the job, you actually help the client figure out the angle of the article, it could actually turn into real long-term business, right? And over time, you would then develop it to have other contributors on there. And basically what you'd be doing is creating like a big, beautiful sort of like contributor platform or whatever. And and you know, it that would work. But the problem is, like you said, like some people will literally just take some random product, GMB verifications, right? Remember that thing? I guarantee you that there were like 2 dudes that actually knew how to do that properly, and that there was about 1,000 people in the Facebook groups reselling that shit. And I don't know if you noticed, but when one of them disappeared, all of a sudden everyone stopped offering it. What a big surprise.
Same thing with with niche edits. I mean, pretty much everyone knows they were all sold from one dude. I mean, I'm sure he made a fuck ton of money.
I guarantee you they still are.
Yeah. But like,
Like,
what was funny is just that you would notice that one niche edit vendor was like, oh man, we have a delay. Like, it's going to take us an extra 2 weeks turnaround time. And everyone else had the same thing.
yep, and all of a sudden you see all of these complaints in the Facebook groups being all like, "Oh no, my vendor's really slow. Any recommendations for a replacement?" And well, that's because, oh excuse me, that's because everyone's reselling the same people, right? Like it's ridiculous. David made a really good point on my live, saying a shitload of people think that they run a business, but they've created a job, and you know, like that's a fact. Like that's just a fact. Like if your business ultimately, if your business can absolutely not run with you, if you're a few years in and your business cannot run with you, then you're not a big fancy CEO. Then I would argue that you're an employee. You know what I mean?
So this is something interesting. So there's this guy I've been listening to a lot recently, James Sinclair. He's the big business guy in the UK. He's mostly in like the entertainment space. I think he does like 100 million pounds a year or something like that. And he was talking about how what most people have is they have a well-paying job and not a business. And then like you'll hear it everywhere. You know, if you can't like, everyone says it differently. If you can't take a week off, you can't take a month off, you can't take a year off, etc., and like just fuck off, and your business can't run without you, then you don't have a business, you have a job. Yet I would argue 99% of the businesses that I talk to, even if they're doing like $100 million a year, they're still in a position where their owner can't like just disappear for months on end or a year on end, etc. So I think that there's a lot more caveats to that, but I understand the principle. It's like, you know, if you're if you're doing everything and the business is only like there's nothing would happen without you, then yeah, that's obvious. But I mean, I used to work for an agency, several $1 million a year. Anytime the owner was gone, even though there was like 40 team members, owner's gone, everything went to hell because he was like gone for a month and high level management didn't know how to make certain decisions without them and whatnot. So I think it's a little bit more complicated than just kind of a blanket statement. But no, I understand what you're saying.
Obviously, right? Like, yeah, I'm over exaggerating for effect, but I think that I think the important thing is that a lot of people are absolutely like in working in this huge illusion that they're like this fucking, you know, guru entrepreneur person that suddenly has got it all figured out. And I think that the you know, the magical thing here is to kind of figure out how to stay humble and how to stay in your lane, and you know, be reasonable and obviously have fun. I mean, I wouldn't have a Lambo like this if I, you know, if I wasn't smashing out from time to time. But no, jokes aside, I think let's backtrack. Okay, so we're talking about what's wrong with this industry. Do you think that there's a direct correlation between people coming into the digital marketing industry in 2 ways? And this is just a theory of mine, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but there's the people that didn't intend on getting into it, and they are in our circles, and they've all done something else beforehand, like 85-90% of them. And then there's the people that work in corporate marketing, right? I'm talking like $100 million plus companies or whatever. And they're the people that have learned it. And that's why we all shit on their campaigns, because obviously they're working in like the corporate sector of it, and they have totally different KPIs. But I don't know if that's right, but I don't know. I didn't ever plan to go into marketing, right? Like digital marketing. I owned a security business before this, right? And I know a bunch of people that I know pretty well in this industry that all had different plans before they went into this, right? I think you're actually one of the only people that I know personally that actually studied marketing and then went into this?
Yeah, I mean, so my background was actually in corporate marketing. I did that for about 1 year, 3 months, and then I got picked up by an agency to work with SMBs, and then I did that for about 2 years, kind of freelancing at the same time. And then yeah, so I mean, like I knew for a long, long time that I wanted to get into business, and then when I was in high school, I was like, all right, cool, let's actually go to college for marketing, and then so I kind of expected that I would be climbing the corporate ladder for until I actually experienced corporate, and I was like, yeah, no, I'd literally rather do anything else. But yeah, so I would say that there's a kind of three ways that people make it in the industry. Is there's that kind of corporate side of thing, the more like in-house person, or the people that are working for like the agencies that work with like Target and like H&M and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You have the people that kind of fell into it accidentally, like probably very like most people that we know. And then you have the get rich quick because you saw a Facebook ad and now you're calling yourself an SEO expert after knowing about it for a week. People, but yeah, I would say that I mean, corporate's very different. Like, and that's one of the problems that I have with a lot of the kind of big media publications in the industry is that the advice that they give isn't always realistic or practical based on the budgets and the types of business people that you're working with. If you're not in a corporate situation, yeah, most people just kind of fall into this. And then I find that most people who are the kind of get rich quick people, which basically in any sort of industry where there's a get rich quick anything, most of them never manage to do much of anything.
Mm-hmm. But you know what? But here, okay. So let me make an argument here as well. There's a bunch of people in our industry that are doing 5 to 15K a month, okay, that are working their butt off to make 5 to 15K a month. I'm not talking about the laptop entrepreneur that's sitting on the beach that's able to work like an hour a day and still make 5 to 15K. I'm talking about the people that work all day, they make 5 to 15K, and they're really working their ass off, but are not scaling beyond that. What I don't understand is for those people, why don't they get that corporate job? Nowadays, you can work remotely for a company in Chicago, in New York, in LA, where you're going to be on that net 8K a month salary, right? Where you can do marketing. But I tell you what, it's going to be a shitload easier because you don't have 10 clients calling you at 5 a.m. or whatever, being like, what the fuck's going on with my website, you know? But
Yeah.
you're netting 8K and you have like one person to answer to, and you just do your thing and you get a 401k and you do all of this. Like, I think that this entrepreneurship is massively overrated if you don't actually want to go beyond that like microcosm. Like,
Yeah,
that's just me. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I say that all the time. Is it's a lot less stress, and you can. I think the reason why everyone's like, oh, I have to have my own business, it's just because it's sexy right now. Like, I think people who actually own a business and do anything, even like even people that own like a six-figure business, which is very, very small in terms of a business. People are kind of put them on a pedestal above like, oh, like these people are more valuable than like doctors and lawyers and whatnot. Like, I think it's more attractive right now for someone to be like, yeah, I own a business where I make $50,000 a year, than for someone to be like, oh yeah, no, I'm a surgeon. Like, I think the being a business owner is just so attractive right now that it's just put on such a high pedestal. But I think also people don't really realize that you can make very good money and not have to work all that hard by being a good employee. Because, like, for example, like I was in that position where before I really thought about like agency or anything like that, I was actually making about $8,000 a month with damn near zero expenses. I worked 6 hours a day. I would be like, okay, cool. It's Tuesday. It's warm out. Let's go kayaking. Let's go for a hike. Whatever. Doesn't really matter because I have that freedom because I work remotely. I just need to make sure I had a task list, however long it takes me to get that task done, whatever. And then it was easy. It was easy living. I make less money personally now. I mean, the business in terms of like what goes on, that my tax return in terms of like gross revenue is much higher, but like I pay myself less, I work more, I have a
Yeah, I
lot
mean
more.
the only benefit is that you're growing your net worth, but that's it. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, like for people like you and I, and for a lot of other people that are on the live now, that doesn't matter. Like I've actually been drawing a very small salary from my businesses for a very long time because I have everything that I need and we put everything back in to keep growing because I'm working on legacy, right? Like that's just what I'm after. But I'm the exact same. When the reason why I moved to England was because I got headhunted by an an American Indian business, and they started me off on like £38,000 when I was 18. By the time I was 19, I was a European director of sales. I was on 70K pounds, um, expenses paid. I traveled across Europe all the time, um, nice hotels, meeting with great big companies. It was the easiest job ever. Like, I mean, I was in sales, but I was in sales for a market leader. Like, I show up, I take them to a steak dinner, we agree to terms, and I get a commission of like, an extra 3 grand that month because I just signed that deal. But you know, that's easy money. Don't hear me wrong. I'm not trying to bastardize the whole entrepreneurship and the whole building a business, because I think that ultimately when it comes down to it, for some people, that is the right thing. I love what I do, and I have amazing days doing this, and I have shit days doing it. And I have days where I love what we're doing and I want to do it for the rest of my life. And then I have days where I'm like, man, this laptop's about to go out the window. I'm sending my application to Five Guys. You know what I mean? Like, to be fair, Five Guys, just so you know, I looked it up. You get like basically unlimited free food when you work there. So I'm just saying, is it that bad?
I mean, so Phoebe made a good point where she said it's not about the money for me. I just don't like having a boss. And there's a couple things that I would say to that is one, I would say most people kind of fall into that category even when they do have a boss and they're like money. Like, I'd say one big issue for people is that they don't work for the right company. So that was kind of like
That's
the ultimate
true.
decision of why I kind of left, is that I felt as when I was working in an agency, is I felt as though the company that I wanted to work for just didn't exist, or I didn't know of them to be able to reach out to them and try to get them to hire me. So like, cool, like I have to do it myself. But like when it comes to not having a boss, I feel like you always have one. Like right now, like all my clients are my boss because I have to do work for them. They pay me and I do that. And then okay, great, at a certain scale, if I'm not involved in fulfillment at all, then it switches where my boss then becomes all of the employees if I'm not dealing with the clients at all, because then I need to do whatever the employees need me to do in order to help them do what the client needs them
Yep.
to do. So I think
Don't
it,
don't.
you know,
I was just going to say, don't forget, Amazon just showed about 1 million people who's boss. We had an episode about it 2 weeks ago. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. No, exactly. Yeah, even the affiliates, because that's a common thing that I hear from affiliates versus clients that they say, you quit your job to no longer have a boss. Instead, you went into client work, and now you have 20 bosses. But I mean, the affiliate side thing is same thing. They cut your commission tomorrow. What are you going to do about it?
Exactly.
So it's just
Exactly.
a matter of a dynamic change. But no, I totally understand it. I think it's just a matter of what dynamic works best for you. A common uh, thing I see is, and a common thing that I talk to people about is more so a couple of years ago when SEO was still like the big thing to get into. Now it's like Facebook ads. But when there was like constantly new and new people coming into the industry, I was seeing so many people that are like, you know what, I want to be able to pay myself, 5 grand a month so that I can, my family's doing well, we can have savings, etc. So I'm going to start an agency. And I don't think people really realize that, or people that haven't really done anything on the business side of things, that realize that how big of a difference there is between gross revenue and net margin. Because, and
And
granted, like,
quality of life. And quality of life.
yeah, because it's like you can you can make, let's say you make $20,000 a month with let's say at that point you're at a 40% margin. That's what, 6 grand net. And assuming that you're, at least in the States, if you're taxed as an LLC and not as an S Corp, then that 6,000 goes between what you pay yourself or what you move into your own account, because technically the money is yours in the first place, taxes, what you keep in the business to try and grow it, so on and so forth, versus if you were a very well-paid freelancer and you made, let's say, $20,000 a month because you just wanted to do everything yourself, if that's what you want to do. So you can make a lot more money with a lot less stress. So that's another thing that I saw that was very common, is people that don't have the business experience that are trying to learn how to do SEO, but also start an agency at the same time. When I was like, if you want to make 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10K a month, almost all of it net, freelance. That's what I did for years, and I made
100%.
That I do now.
Oh, no, 100%. I could literally, Lindsay would make more money being a freelance writer right now than running 60 writers and 5 editors for us. It's hands down. It's just a fact. But obviously, we're trying to build an empire together. We need Lambos. They have to be yellow. Mate, I don't know
how long it takes for the payoff. What I'm looking for is, okay, right, like the agency will probably pay off for me year 3 or 4, probably is when I'll be like, okay, great, this is actually worth it. Maybe year 5, things are going a little bit slower compared to, how much faster it would be to do other things. It's because, okay, great, I want this to be like here so I can go do these other things where I can have money coming in from an agency while I don't have to worry about that, and I can work on things like investing in property or starting like a SaaS business or creating a bunch of content on YouTube that I don't have to worry about that being profitable for years because I already make money over here. So I don't know. I just think it's very easy to get attracted to the 1,000 Facebook ads you'll get a day of people with backgrounds not unlike those that we're using right now.
Look, I think you hit the nail on the head, Jarod. I think that the problems with this industry are very real. And I think the problems with this industry are also what attracts a lot of people into it, right? The get rich quick schemes, all of that kind of stuff. I think the reality, though, is that if you have a plan, and I think that you and I are very similar in this, if you have a plan, you have the agency or the productized service business like I do, you have all of these different types of businesses, and they pay the overheads and they make a nice margin on top. But that you don't want to do that for the rest of your life. And so what you do is you take that nice margin and you start applying that into assets that you can grow, that you can sell for a lot more money at some point. And that, I think, is the real way to do it. I mean, there is a reason why super affiliates like Matt Diggity own a bunch of houses that are rented out to people in the States or wherever. That these people are not doing that just because, they can't find a place to store their money. No, they're doing it because they know that is far more evergreen than the crap that they're doing right now is. But the thing is that that's not as sexy to talk about. And that's why they're talking about the affiliate marketing that's crushing it. And that's why they're talking about the SEO hacks that everyone wants to see at a conference. And that's why they're talking about, the quick way to level up this and that and this. And I can't blame them, because obviously that's what gets views. This is why we have these absolutely stupid backgrounds, because that's what made people click on this video, right? But in the background, the unsexy thing is that building a team, understanding how to grow a business, understanding where to park your money, understanding taxation and understanding how to save money on taxation, all of these things are the actual things that will make you a wealthy person in this industry, unlike the things that are the shiny objects that draw everyone in. And I just think that's the biggest mindfuck ever.
Yeah, I think another thing, just when it comes to money, that people don't realize they're getting into this because they're like, oh yeah, I want the money, is they think that things like $100,000 are a lot bigger than it actually is.
Yeah. Oh my God. People think that that will just serve them for the rest of their life. I'm not ashamed to say we probably spend that in a month on our overheads. You know what I mean? And that just blows my mind. I now spend more in a single month on our bills than I used to make in a year. You know?
Yeah, it's because even it's like cool, you know, I'm gonna make, you know, 6 figures a month. I'm gonna be rich, and then you're like, okay, cool. I just met a dude who's worked in the same position for 10 years, and he makes $95,000 a year because, you know, he just like, it's not that much money. Like, I would say even like $1 million isn't even that much money in reality. Like, things are expensive, especially if you're looking at it from like a business perspective. If you're like $1 million business, it's a very, very small business.
Oh,
Like,
yeah, people don't realize that, but again, I think that's kind of down to the bubble, Jared. Like, you know, you look at people valuing sites that are making $500 a month. You know what I mean? We're not talking about valuing businesses that are making, you know, 100, 200, 300, 500 grand a month. And that's the difference. And so because we're valuing stuff based on, if I can get this website to make $500 a month, I can get a payout of 15 grand. That's why we're thinking that 100 grand is a lot, right?
Yeah.
I think that's got to be it.
Yeah. So when it comes to the business, something that a lot of people say is build it to sell. Now, do you think I personally am yet to see a business in our space that is built to sell that does good work. So
I don't know. What do you mean by
what
that?
what I mean by that is there's kind of two ways that I would say building to sell. One is creating like the typical, like, everything is processized down to the dot kind of business. Now the issue in our industry is that that's not very practical in terms of a client fulfillment side of things. Like we just brought on a new client, and we're going through like even like their analytics accounts, which are set up very, very fancily because they hire like a big dick agency that you know, here's all the fancy analytics settings that we're going to use and whatnot, where I had to like do a bunch of research on like what the hell does this even mean, and it wasn't even like useful for them either. So every single client, there's something that like just like requires some sort of expertise. So like you have those agencies that are set up, which they just follow the same process over and over again, which makes it very systematized in terms of their fulfillment. But the issue is, I wouldn't say it's a very good business in terms of the results that they get for their clients. It is a churn and burn type model, in my opinion, for businesses in our space to build it that way, versus the other way, which is that it's much more high end, where you have like the massive corporate clients and your employees are all like $100,000 a year, and you don't have processes. What you just have is a fuck ton of money to be able to have the margin for to have experts just do whatever because they know what they're going to do. So it's just like,
Sure.
for like the average company that isn't in one of those two extremes, is it really realistic to build it to sell?
I don't know. I mean, I have to be totally honest with you. I have no idea how you sell an agency, because in my eyes, most agencies that are in our realm, so like the 100K agencies sort of thing, you know, like what I mean by that is not, you know, not 100K net worth. What I mean is like turning around between sort of $50,000 and $150,000 a month. They're all built on relationships, and I don't understand how you even sell that without, you know, like the majority of our agency clients are with us because they've had conversations with me, and because our team does amazing work. And so even if we sold it with our team, I would still think that a lot of love would be lost if I wasn't part of the package anymore. That's without me trying to like pat myself on the shoulder. I just mean I genuinely don't understand how you would design that, and there are experts that would do that for you, but it's still kind of weird to me. The thing that I think is that there are some things in our industry that are built to sell. Like, for example, all the SaaS products, right? Like, they're perfect. Like, you build those to sell. They're built, they get a bunch of users. Once you have a bunch of users, you sell it. Totally makes sense. Affiliate sites, I guess as well. Oh, okay. Affiliate sites as well. I mean, you know, those are pretty easy to sell. E-com stores are pretty easy to sell. But yeah, agencies, I think that's really difficult. I don't really understand how you build that to sell. I mean, I guess the one way that you could build it to sell is by just packaging the whole thing from right from the start. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I feel like you'd have to have a very restrictive service. Like you wouldn't be able to be the SEO company. You would have to be the
SEO package company, right?
Well, not even that, because I think that kind of goes to one of the things I said, where you can, one of the ways that you can actually do that is by having that sort of super package and kind of productized service that just probably has a much higher fail rate than you would ever want to admit. But something where it's like, okay, great, we don't do SEO. What we do is one small element of it. So we just do like the PR based outreach, because that would be a lot easier to systematize just that one thing.
Right.
Because okay, great, because it's like when you look at the greater scope of things like on-site, like okay, great, every website is built using a different theme, different code base, different developers that may or may not understand proper whatever. So like getting behind a site is just always a massive nightmare. So like that would be something I would think that the smaller and smaller you get in that subsequent way, which seems to be how some of the seems to be over the past like 3-4 years. I don't know your opinion, how the industry is starting to move. Like I've seen a lot more people just become like, okay, great, you only hire us for technical SEO. Okay, great, you only hire us for link building. Like that's how it was for pretty much since I started on like the very like large corporate side of things. Like Target hires you for just one thing, like eBay hires you for just one thing.
Right.
And you have like a dozen different agencies working for you doing like particular things. But on like the kind of like the mid-level business, it was still like, okay, great, we're going to hire one company, we're going to pay them 10-20 grand a month. And now it seems like, okay, great, we have 2-3 agencies each getting 5 to 7K a month. I've just seen that, at least in my opinion, kind of become a lot more common. And I wonder if it's because the people that are kind of getting into this, that all seem to kind of get in this at the same time, are now realizing that having real dedicated processes and systems when you handle kind of the everything just isn't realistic. And they're like, well, I want to start thinking about my exit, and doing, everything when it comes to SEO just isn't realistic. So let's rebrand and we'll just do like this one element.
I think that it actually is more acquirable too, if you think about it, Jarod. Like, think about it this way. If you're a really strong link building company and all you do is link building, then a company that has a weakness in link building can acquire you and, and just build you in. Just before I continue ranting about random shit that I'm annoyed about in this industry, and Jarod is, if you are watching this, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, if you are watching this, drop us a comment on what pisses you off about the marketing industry, or the digital marketing industry. Don't hold back. We enjoy it.
Phoebe, actually, who seems to be very interested in every single live that we do. I think she's our biggest fan.
Number one fan. Yeah, we have to send her a t-shirt.
Yeah, and yeah, we should do that. So she said a while ago, a lot of conferences, this is when we were talking about the conference thing, are just drawn out blog posts. And that's another thing that has always really, really bothered me about conferences, especially like the big name ones, is that I feel like almost every speaker, right before they give their talk or right after it, they release it as a blog post.
They really do. They really do.
It's like, here's my 5-part video series that everyone that's going to this conference has already seen, so I'll just make that into an hour talk.
Yes.
Or, here's how to do this. Okay, great. Conference was on Monday, so on Wednesday we'll release this for literally pretty much word for word as a blog post on our blog that anyone in the world can see. So then, like, once that happens, it's like, okay, cool. Well, what's the fucking point of coming out here? And that's just one of the, again, like how you only should attend those things for networking. Ooh, branding.
Boom. There we go. I just remembered. No, you are 110,000% right, Jarod. It's I don't understand it. Or people literally just going on a talk to sell something. And like, look, I get it. Like, the whole purpose of getting a speaking opportunity is to grow your personal brand, or grow your, like, your brand, and then to eventually make money from it. I get that, but like, don't make it so damn cheesy. Don't make it like, oh, guys, I shared all of this really cool information, but if you buy my $37 ebook, that's where you get the true hacks, wink, wink. It's like, fuck off, mate. Like, why did I just waste an hour of my time listening to you? Adam just commented saying most people have a signature talk, same. I agree with that. I kind of feel like I'm partially guilty of that. I mean, I did the Sleeping Giant. I did at a bunch of events, and that was but okay. Here's my excuse for that. I purely did that based on the amount of work we put in it, and I did it at a bunch of different events in one season. But I feel like there are people that do the same exact talk over and over and over and over and over again.
Well, I think you need to look at it like a comedian. So, like for example, like a comedian, the hour that their hour special, that was something that took them two years to make. And if you go back and you see any of their like big shows, wherever, they're giving the same exact thing with like some differences because they spend like a year or two working on the material at like small clubs. They'll try out jokes. They'll be like, okay, great, this works, this doesn't work, and they change this up. Then they'll do bigger shows. Okay, great, let's kind of form this. And eventually they kind of have it going. And then they're able to tell those jokes in, 30, 40, 50 places on their tour. They're different audiences. There are people that will just like tour them and see like 3 or 4 shows. But if you put in that much work to actually make it like an actual worthwhile talk, then you're giving it to different audiences. It works. You've tested parts of it. You might go like, okay, great. Like I said this line on the podcast. This really seemed to connect with people. Let me say this line in my talk or whatever. Then you kind of do what you did, and for like 3, 4, 5 months or whatever, just going out to every single conference that you can to give the same talk because it works. But you're not going to give that talk, for the next 3 to 5 years without it being like an evolved version of it.
Yeah. That brings me to another topic that I have to bring up real quick and bitch about, which is podcasts, okay? And I know this is the most ironic thing, the most ironic thing in the world. But here's what really pisses me off. There was a period where I was very grateful to be invited on a lot of podcasts, okay? And everyone asks the same fucking boring questions, man, in the SEO community. And it's so boring. I have had a couple of amazing podcasts with people that have asked very good questions. Mad Singers is one of those people that really, he asked interesting questions that gave me the opportunity to give interesting answers, and that was it. But man, there are so many of these podcasts. You can listen back to 15 podcasts or something that I've been on, and I guarantee you that out of those 15, there's 10 that are the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's really frustrating. That's one of the things that I haven't liked about podcasts, and I've been doing a lot more of them recently, is the amount of prep work that people put into it, like the hosts, can be very, very minimal. And because of that, they need to ask general questions that they know they can ask anybody and it will be worth it. And so, I don't know, for me, as when I go onto a podcast, I always listen in full to at least one episode. I listen in full to at least 2 episodes, just while I'm doing whatever, assuming it's been scheduled far enough ahead, so that I understand the format, the types. So I understand the host personality if I don't know them very well, so that I know how to prepare for this and get a general sense of their audience. And then I'll also know, okay, great, this is the format that they take. This is, they're very animated. They're really good at jumping in, or they're really cut and dry. So I know how to approach that. But then it doesn't always get reciprocated the other way around, where the host is like, okay, great, I'm going to have this guest on my thing. I'm having them on. I'm going to promote them to my audience as being, quote unquote expert or whatever. Why wouldn't you do 20 minutes of due diligence and skim a blog post or 2 they've written, listen to a podcast that they've been on at 2 times speed. You can figure out okay, great, are they really great at telling stories? Are they really great at this? Do they have a lot of, stories that I can interject and get them to talk about or whatever? So yeah, I think it's just a lack of effort.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I just realized though? We're being really, really ironic because the whole reason for this episode is because we didn't do any planning for this episode.
Yeah. The only thing we planned was that we were going to go live today. And then we were like, okay, well, we have to go live. What are we talking about? Who knows?
That's it. Well, hey, BB, our #1 fan, we are still looking for ideas for our next few episodes. We've got a couple already planned, but if you have any ideas for upcoming episodes, please post them on this video, because we do need your help. Obviously, especially BB, whose business I now own. I paid $15.75. That's official. We've got it in writing. But yes, if you have any ideas for future podcast / live sessions, please let us know, because we are running out of creativity real fast and in a hurry. What did BB just say? What I dislike from this industry is how lonely some people get and how the bragging and bullying can hurt them. Man, you are so right, BB. I think that one of the big problems, especially for guys in this industry, and I don't know if it, I'm sure it's the same for women, but like, this is something that I can definitely resonate with when you start off, is that when you first start off, obviously things are going to take a little bit longer to really like gain momentum, and for you to make some money, and for you to be able to pay your rent with what you're doing online, stuff like that. And with everybody else constantly boasting about how they're killing it, and they've got Lambos, they've got private jets, and everything is just insane, it can be really depressing when your latest campaign or whatever was a fail, or you didn't hear back after you sent out 17 and a half emails to get some clients and whatnot. And so that constant bullshit of people being like, yeah, I'm crushing it, and if you're not crushing, you're not hustling hard enough, and if you're not making 10K a day, then fuck you, then that can be really depressing, and it can also really ostracize you from the industry, because you kind of feel like you don't fit in, when in reality, actually, there's a lot more people in the industry that are trying to make things happen, that are struggling to get things going, than there are people absolutely killing it.
Yeah, I mean, the #1 thing I hate, and we've talked about this a number of times, is people who have or allegedly have, which I'm going to say it's more so allegedly have, if they're saying this, going on, who then go, being an employee is awful. You're a fucking idiot if you're an employee. You're nobody respects employees, et cetera, et cetera. And they're like, oh yeah, here, meet my team. I'm like, yeah, I'm sure they're real happy working for you if you just said that you don't respect anybody who has a job.
I know, it's such bullshit. It's such bullshit. I just don't get it. It's like as if they then turn around and they're like, yeah, not you though. You're great. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Insane. Hey, BB, I saw that you said that your VA is going to come up with ideas for our next episodes. I really appreciate that. Maybe that way you can, earn back the shares in your business that we now own. But yeah, it's madness. I don't know. Have you got anything else left in you, Jarod, that you need to vent about this industry?
1,000,001 things. Most I probably can't say on camera.
I know, it's so infuriating.
Yeah, there's going to be like 3 or 4 people that are going to watch this episode in full just to see if we talk about them.
Oh, 100%.
Which is going to be
about you.
Yeah, Craig, you just joined. You just missed us talking shit about you for an entire hour. You're going to have to watch this entire thing.
Yup. Sorry, Craig.
Yeah. Let me think.
I think one of the last things that one of the things that does bother me a lot, and this has got nothing to like, it's an industry thing, but not an industry thing. The more big businesses we work with that we're taking like good money from, like that are paying us good money, the more of them that we work with, the more of them that don't implement shit. they keep paying us, right? Like these are companies that are big enough to where we're in strategy positions, right? So we consult them. They have their own devs, they have their own marketing people that are supposed to be doing stuff. They even have their own content writers a lot of the time. And they pay us $5,000 a month, they pay us $10,000 a month, whatever. And they don't do anything. And it gets like month 6, and they're like, I can't believe that we're not, that we haven't seen an increase. And we're like, are you for real? What is going on? Oh, insane.
Yeah, we're generally working with smaller businesses where we're implementing everything for them on the dev side. The one thing that used to be a pretty big pain in the ass was getting content approvals. But what we did for that was, because we upload the content stuff ourselves, so we just said, if you don't respond within 7 days, we'll just assume that it's improved so that you don't become a roadblock. And that's been pretty good.
Yeah.
But because we kind of handle that, like, I wish that we were in a position where we didn't have to handle the on-site work, but also are working with the types of businesses that the type of people that they would hire, if they were willing to hire anybody to do the work, would probably do it wrong in the first place, because they'd be like, cool,
Right.
here's the developer that costs $4 an hour. Yeah, but there was actually one client that we worked with earlier last year that they had a custom build of the website. They had like a full-time developer, so we weren't allowed to touch the site. We worked with them for about 6 months, and not a single change was ever made to the site. And eventually they were just like, well, like our developer like doesn't have the time, or he wasn't playing ball or whatever it was, so we can't really keep working together because literally nothing's happened. Like, well,
it's just insane. It's just insane.
Yeah, I think that's probably an issue with you hired an SEO because you knew SEO was important, but you didn't really think of what that meant, so you never queued in any of your writers, developers, etc., as to that you were doing this, or how much work it was going to actually be, and have them actually think about it, rather than just go, oh yeah, we have the time, yeah, sure, send it over.
I know.
It's
because they hire a marketing company because they were told that in order to like scale their business they need to hire a marketing company, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, Rick said that we should get BB singing and playing ukulele, and I'm just going to comment on that, saying that maybe we can convince BB to record our podcast jingle.
Yeah, well, that'd be cool. Something else I just thought of, which I don't know if you've ever encountered. I've encountered this 3 or 4 times over the past 2 years. There have been 3 or 4 instances where a client has hired us, and without consulting us on this, without asking, has then fired their in-house marketing person or their developer.
That's happened to us before. Yeah.
And it's like, cool, like we don't do the same thing, and you've actually just made our lives a lot harder, because we met with your marketing person, they decided to hire us. We knew that we'd have a great relationship with them. Then we started, and like 4 days in, they're like, oh no, actually, they're gone now. They're like, you're the one to contact.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's I don't understand that. But yeah, that's the only other thing I can think of.
No, I don't get it. I just don't get it. These people just don't like. They don't know. But hey, look, it is what it is, and this has helped me. I feel like this was a entrepreneurial therapy session, except that it was live on Facebook, with BB commenting along the way as our sort of value add. Yeah, no, I love it. Unless there's anything else from you, Jarod, I'm good for today. I'm all out.
I think we're gonna have to rebrand to the Business Therapy Podcast.
Right.
It was a good one. We got a lot of people joining and commenting, considering that there was no pre-planned direction for this other than we should really go live right now and hope for the best.
That's right. Do you guys have like an internal name for clients? Yeah, but hey, Craig, here's the problem. I can't say that on air. The only thing that I can say is that we'd probably like to see them next Tuesday or something like that.
You know what the worst part is, though, is I feel like the clients that we dislike the most don't get that we're not in a good relationship. I feel like the people who were like, this is like, do nothing but argue back and forth and whatnot, and they're like, this is going great, and we're just like, cool, like I'm gonna like fire them tomorrow because I can't fucking deal with this.
You know what? I think you're right, and they're always the most demanding as well. But you know, they're the most demanding in the sense that they're usually people that will send you like 20 emails for like one simple thing that they're trying to get sorted. But yeah. Hey, BB just said, I never know when this is on. You make a very good point, BB. So during the lockdown, we're probably going to attempt to stay to keep doing this every Tuesday and one more day a week. That second day is kind of a moving target. Once we go out of the lockdown, we will probably go down to one episode a week. Is that right?
Yeah, we'll have to play by ear, but at least once a week. I mean, maybe if we can do that delegation stuff that both of us are always talking about.
I've heard of that before. Yeah.
We'll have BB record an episode a week for us.
That's right. Yeah. So we'll have BB record an episode for us every week. Then that way we can have two. No, but all seriousness, like we're gonna try and do one episode a week. And once we're outside of the lockdown, you'll see some episodes of Jarod and I actually doing episodes together in person, which will be fun as well. The show is called the Value Added Podcast. We're currently saving up episodes so we can start the actual podcast with the best first few episodes. But your support is really just so amazing. I mean, you know, we started this when the Amazon price crunch, or whatever you want to call it, the commission crunch happened, literally with me and Jarod messaging on Skype saying, hey, do you want to go live on Facebook and talk about this real quick? And since then, we've done at least one episode every week. So we're going to have, a site up and an email list and all of that. But yeah, just get the word out once we announce the next one. BB is our marketing manager. So if you have any questions or complaints, just send them all to her. We're very, very grateful for you.
Specifically, if you have complaints, send them to her.
Yeah, if you want to send us love, cash, Lambos, private jets, nudes, just send them all to us. It's all good.
Someone's going to take that a little too seriously.
Namely Craig. Okay, Jarod, it's been real. I'm going to shoot off for today. Love y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.
Bye.